Okay, I'm recording, and I think Melissa and Jennifer, you both have the option as well. I think the thing that was weird is when I said share screen, the screen where I can actually see the website went to all your lovely faces. So let me see if I do that again. I'm a little better at it. So share screen 2 is what I want to share. Now, are you all seeing the website?
We are seeing everyone's lovely faces.
Yeah, me too.
You guys look great.
Everybody looks great, but okay, let's figure this out. All right, so I'm going to share screen. And I have screen 1 is everybody's faces. I have screen 2, which it gives me, Jennifer, it's bordering it with like a highlight. And I'm saying share that screen that's highlighted.
Right.
Now, can anybody see it?
There you go.
There you go.
Yay. Okay. So when you are working with your students, or those of you who are students, and you go into the Phi U website, then you can get to the scholarship app with the password that I'm about to get you without even logging in first. So if you go to scholarships, and we're going to start with scholarships tonight rather than fellowships or awards, but we will talk about them. You just click on that link and it will change to this screen. All right. And the very first thing that I already told you is going to show up in red right there. And it says extended to March 1st. For as long as I can remember, 37 years or whatever it is, it's been February 1st. And March 1st is a really new thing for us to try, but we've done that for several reasons to accommodate all kinds of programs, that aren't for graduate programs that aren't issued. They don't even know where they're going yet before they apply for these scholarships. So we need to kind of accommodate that, and it'll crunch it a little bit in the national office, but we'll be able to get it done. So when you get to that screen, you see that there's one highlight right there. Now, sometimes that's not intuitive to people. I'll get an email, Miss Jones, I don't see how you get to the form. Well, this purple scholarship application directions and scholarship form is a link. And so if anybody has any suggestions on how we can make that more obvious, then tell us, but that's where we're going to click, okay? Now, you get to a screen that looks like this, and you have scholarship application directions, and you have the actual scholarship, okay? So we're gonna just click on the directions link, and as you can see in the corner of my screen, up comes the possibility of opening a Word document.
And Cindy, now, it didn't prompt you to enter the password because you had already accessed it, right?
Oh, that's right, Melissa. I had already. Now, what screen do you all see right now? Do you still see the website? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's go back then. Let's see how I could demonstrate that. I could go and open a new. Well, I'll tell you what, Melissa, can you get to that real quick and then you share your screen?
I can
to show where to put the password in. For those of you who don't have it written down, it's capital SFA 2021. So I already had it pulled up and some things pre-populated to make this go smoother, but we definitely need to show that. So Melissa, I'll take my share screen off.
Okay. Let me see if I can
and you share your screen now, if you would.
1 second. I've been in it also today.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think about it. Yeah, make it hard for you too. Yeah.
Come back in. I think it'll work.
Okay.
Now also drop that password in the chat box.
Oh, okay. That's good for everybody. You have it written down. SFA 2021.
Let me log into something else and then I'll.
So if you are on this, on the Phi U website that we were just on, and when you click scholarship application, you're going to have to put the password in. And that's the part that I have it right here on my second bullet, but I went right past it.
So, well, it didn't populate. So that's okay. I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see where it says scholarship application and directions, password protected?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
So right here is where you will drop the password. Hit submit, and then you will be at that lovely screen that Cindy had showed.
Okay, thank you.
Back to you, Cindy.
All right, so let me share my screen again. I can figure out how to get back there. Share screen, and back to screen 2. All right. So, as I was saying, if you click on the directions, and we are encouraging, and you need to encourage your students, those of you advisors, to go ahead and click on the directions and open them up, and perhaps even consider printing them. Can you all see them?
No, you'll have to stop sharing and then
that screen.
share
Okay,
again.
so let me go to that screen now. So share screen, share the general scholarship directions. Okay, now there again is the most important point we keep making: on or before March 1st, no later than 11:59, because you're submitting electronically, then all of this needs to be done. All fields in the application form must be completed electronically. So one of the things that I have found really works well for my students is for them to go into the website, print this page off, this Word document off, so they'll have it at their fingertips to make sure that they're following all the rules, and then to go ahead and go into the form, which we're going to do next, and print it off. Because once you see the form and you gather the information that you need, we have found that it's really good for students, especially when they're writing their goals, to put the information in a Word document so that you can check it, and spell check will be there, and grammar check, and that sort of thing. So then when you copy and paste into the form, then you know things are correct. All right, so that is one good reason to print everything out, gather all the information, and we do have a new feature this year where we can stop and save things, but that hasn't always been available. All right, so going back to the directions here, just reading through them. I know you can all read, but we just want to stress that the things are going to be submitted electronically. So you're going to complete and submit the application that's on the website. You're going to request that your registrar send official electronic copies of your transcript, and if it's more than one institution, from each one, directly to this email to the national office, which is national@phiu.org. You also this year are going to have 3 letters of recommendation that are submitted electronically. And this particular point number 3 talks about what's supposed to be on those 3 letters of recommendation, and we'll get to that in just a moment. So one of the notes in number 2 I think is really important for you all to call your attention to is put in the subject line of the email. So the registrar's office needs to put in the subject line of the email scholarship transcript _ and then that applicant's name. And that way it'll be easy for the scholarship committee and for Melissa to identify each of these letters of recommendation that come. Now, when a student comes to me and asks for me to write a letter of recommendation, and so many have gone to electronic forms now, so this is not going to be that, strange for those of us who are advisors, but the thing that the student needs to keep in mind is that you want to give that advisor as much information as possible about what you need. So I am going to suggest, and any of you that are advisors can tell me if this would work for you, I am going to suggest that you highlight and copy, or whatever you want to do, all of this information. And when you email your professor or your chapter advisor to send a letter of recommendation, you provide all of these directions to them. Don't make them have to go and look it up. Make it as convenient and as smooth as possible for those people who you are asking for help. Now, one of the reasons we've always done the scholarship webinar, or I know in our chapter we've done chapter meetings in November about scholarships, is because they have traditionally been due on February 1st. A lot of us don't go back to spring semester until the end of January, and all of a sudden you're in the crunch week, the first week of school, things are hectic, you're trying to get your books and your assignments, and if you're faculty, you're trying to get all your classes started, and then all of a sudden you have to write a really meaningful letter of recommendation for a scholarship. And this year we are going to have a little bit of extra time, but I am still going to encourage those of you, our students, to send the request to whoever you're asking to write the letter, you know, prior to you leaving for holiday break. Because that way, you know, if I'm an advisor and I'm organizing my time in the early January, I'll know I've got these 3 letters to write or whatever. So don't procrastinate asking. And the other thing, I told Melissa I was going to coin this little phrase tonight, is that, you know, we all need to work before the deadline so that we can go back and edit and perfect things. So if you want to request your advisors that are writing letters of recommendation to, you know, get it done early, I think you could use Valentine's as your goal. So it's sweet to get done early. And if you just think of Valentine's as being your last minute date, then for sure you're going to have everything sent from the registrar. Like, what if it takes them 2 weeks to process it and you wait until February 27th? Well, it's not going to get there by March 1st, and then it's going to be considered late. So make life sweet, and life's going to be sweeter if you make that mid-February a point that you're trying to get everything in by that particular point, and then maybe we won't have anybody heartbroken for things being submitted late. All right, so these, go ahead.
This is Brecca Farr from Oklahoma State.
Yes.
I noticed where one of the letters of recommendation needs to come from the current Phi U chapter advisor. Given where we've just changed over advisors, there could be students who knew Dr. Hardy, my predecessor, and he would be able to write a stronger letter than perhaps I could. Would that be acceptable, or must it be from me since I am now the named chapter advisor?
I think it would make perfect sense during the transition. And I think that he could just identify that I, you know, as the former chapter advisor, I've worked with this student the past 2 semesters or whatever, and just identify that. Don't you think that'd be fine, Melissa? Yeah. Because, you know, you do want the transition to be smooth, and you don't want, I mean, I know it's so hard to write, you know, don't you feel sorry for, I think about pastors who have to do a funeral of somebody they never knew. To write a letter of recommendation, somebody you really don't know, it has to be so perfunctory and just so, you know, this is what I know kind of a thing, that it doesn't end up adding much weight to what they are submitting. So I think meaningful letters are important enough that we certainly can work with those of you who are new advisors if there's some history. I think that's fine.
And we have with us Dr. Lynette Olson, who's our current foundation chair. Lynette, do you have anything maybe to add to that?
Oh, I think everything that has been said, I think it's a good idea to have letters that are strong, because I know reviewers really do spend time looking at those and taking into consideration. So I think you've asked a great question, and I think that it'd be very appropriate to have a recent past advisor.
Right,
You know,
right.
Dip way back, but yeah, good question.
And is Susan still on here? Susan Miller, you've helped review before. Wouldn't you be comfortable with that? A past advisor identifying themselves and then going ahead and it could be, Brecca, that they want you to write as well. And if that's something they ask, then you certainly can say, you know, based on their academic record and their current participation. It's so interesting as you work on scholarship committees and you're reviewing, you're looking for any little significant detail that really brings meaning to that applicant's application. And so that's why the letters, I mean, it's so easy to tell for those of us who have reviewed hundreds through the years, you know, if it's somebody just writing a letter because they had to, or somebody who really genuinely wanted to write a letter. Susan, do you want to add anything to that?
I agree that it should be a recent advisor, you know, not someone from years in the past, but a recent advisor, I think would certainly make a richer letter.
Right.
For sure. If it's someone from quite a ways back, maybe just get a resume from that student, and then if they did have an advisor from the past, maybe you could contact them and add some wordage from them.
Right, that's a good point. You could be speaking with them. All right, so anybody else? I mean, noticing the students, of course, have to notice who it is that we're asking for these letters to come from, a current advisor if possible, and an academic advisor. Where's my list in there? Current Phi U Chapter Advisor, and on university letterhead is something that we've asked for. Almost all of us now function in a world where we save things as PDF so that so that everybody can open, the documents. Okay, so I think I'm going to go back now and share my screen to the website again, if there aren't any other questions about the directions. Jennifer's going to have the directions at the ready. So if I ask her to share her screen, she'll be able to go back there really. Martha's asking, can it be electronic signature for the letters? Yes. Okay, so back to the website. Does everybody see that? Somebody shake their head. Yes, you see it?
Yes.
All right, so to go into the actual scholarship application, which is called a JOT form, it's a form that can be populated, just like you're doing an order from some retail establishment. And it's rather lengthy. So that's why, we encourage students to go ahead and print it out and see that even though it's lengthy on the computer screen, it's really a lot of information that's easily condensed, and a couple things are, automatically populated if you work on your PC a lot, like your address and things like that. But anyway, you can this year, you can go into the application and you'll note right there that there's a hyperlink for the directions. If you're like, oh shoot, I forgot something, and you want to look at the directions again, Melissa made it really easy for us. They're right there again in case you didn't print them out. You've got them to click on if you want to, okay? So this application can be saved and resumed later. So that's a new feature this year. We're excited to see how that all works out. What we're recommending is that you prepare everything on the Word document, and then you can cut and paste where it's appropriate. You might be able to type even faster. So as a student, as they're beginning to fill these out, everything that has a red asterisk must be filled out. If you skip something that has a red asterisk, and we'll try to skip one thing, well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to populate this totally tonight, but you definitely could try that. You'll see a little button comes up that says this is a required field. Oh, I suppose at the end, if I hit submit, they're all going to be required if I don't have them filled out. So anyway, just going in there, like right here, I can automatically populate mine, and my address came in, but it didn't include my middle initial. So I would have to do that before that little note would go away. So it kind of is, self-help. It's not going to let you go forward without completing what we need from you, which is a great feature, okay? So current address, for those of you who are students and you're living on campus, you can include your current address for the spring semester, but we certainly would like to have your permanent address as well. So be sure and fill out both, and it will prompt you to do that if you skip it, okay? Then your email and a phone number that you would actually answer. Don't put a landline if you still have one and you never ever check it. So just, put your cell number, whatever. I'm just going to go through this kind of quickly because I know it's straightforward, but jump in if you're like, what does that mean? Cumulative GPA, the Phi U chapter where you were initiated, and the month and year that you were initiated. We don't have to have the exact day, but the month and year. And then the chapter advisor information. And Brecca, this is where they would need to put you here. You're the current one. So they would put you, your name and credentials, and then the institution where the degree is currently being worked on, or if it will be pursued at the master's level. In the fellowship, the wording is the same in the fellowship document. And then
sorry,
go ahead,
it's
really
Melissa.
Important
to get accurate information here. So as a student, if you think that it's the right answer, please do take the time to look it up, because for scholarships, the chapter advisor is the person who will receive your check. So it does take more time as far as the national office is concerned in processing those. If we have to do some Googling to look and see what is the correct mailing address for that person, or if that is their correct spelling of their last name. So just the few minutes you take there can ensure that if you are selected, that your money gets where it's supposed to go.
Right. Very important. And then this is one of the ones that always, students would ask me, overall family and consumer sciences or related unit name. Just where is your degree held and housed? And then that's the name of that unit. So like at our college, it's Applied Human Sciences, but they're all different names, and you just need to make sure that you're using the right one. And like Melissa said, very important to put the correct address and email of that advisor. Even the advisor's phone number makes life so much easier, so we can do a quick contact if there is something spelled wrong or the email gets kicked back because there was a typo. That's the one thing, when you're in these JOT forms, it doesn't correct spelling, and it certainly wouldn't, tell you that the email was not valid if you left out the at. You know how it'll do when you're doing certain documents, or if you're ordering from retail or something, it'll prompt you that's not a valid email address. But this particular form is not going to do that. So make sure you get that correct, that the advisor email is correct. All right, so then going on down through the form, you've got to put your classification, like what is your major? Some of them have drop-down menus like, what year are you in school, first semester, second semester. If you don't put that in, it's going to give you that little red line. I'll just pretend like I'm a second semester junior. And then what's the name of your degree currently pursued, and when do you expect to graduate? Okay, that's an important date to get on there. And then for those of you who have never really identified who your unit administrator is, it's time now that you make yourself familiar with who is the chair of the department or the head of the department, program advisor, or whatever name your institution uses. We need to know that particular person's name and title, and that institution, and again, the overall unit. Because, with a lot of schools breaking up different departments, dietetics might be in one college and hotel restaurant might be in another. So just identify the one where your degree being sought is held.
And Cindy,
yes,
Brecca had another question in the chat box.
Okay.
She asked for the unit name. Would it be more accurate to say College of Education and Human Sciences, or the specific department or school, such as Department of Nutritional Sciences? I'm not sure what others think from their university standpoint. For us, especially when it comes to breaking through some of the barriers with campus mail, I would say more information, the better. If you're able to fit it all on there, even if you abbreviate to a degree, like if you said, DEPT nutrition or something like that. But anybody else have thoughts on that?
Just it like Melissa said, it's really important that we have as much information as possible in case we are having to track something down. So, feel free to fit in all that you can, just in case it makes it confusing. And, with the whole COVID situation right now, even on our campus, our mail is, dramatically delayed. Campus mail has been dramatically delayed. So keep that in mind by giving as much information as possible. Okay. So a address of that administrator and their email and phone number. Okay. So I think that part, I don't know, other advisors, if you would agree with this. I saw that Sally's on there. Is that the one the students come to you the most for the information? They're like, because not every student understands the hierarchy of how our departments are housed.
Yes, you're exactly correct.
Okay.
And generally for us, we put the dean's name. So we've got probably 12 colleges, 12 departments in one college. And so for PR purposes, we'll put the dean's name down there, name of unit administrator, so that they are made aware that our outstanding students are receiving those scholarships, fellowships, or awards.
That's great. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yes. So, making sure your students understand that, and almost every website of course would have that, but again, you have to take the students kind of through it and say, hey, this is where you find out all this information. And in fact, sometimes we would just have the dean or the department chair or both come to that meeting, invite them to the meeting, and just talk to them about the value of scholarships. So that would be a thought if we were not in COVID and we could actually meet in person. But anyway, it's important to get that information.
Well, and it's great even when we're notifying students that they are recipients, and we copy their highest unit administrator, it's so wonderful because sometimes I'm replied, they reply all, and we're getting department heads and different people who are reaching out to congratulate the students individually. And I think that's just wonderful overall,
Yes.
for not only Phi U retention, but just engagement and networking in the campus itself with their own department. So it's never a bad thing to sing the praises of the students' accomplishments and the organization that maybe helped bring those about. So
Right. It's just great. Like Sally said, it's great PR, and it's easy enough to do if we have all those emails in our spreadsheets and can send that out directly. Okay. So moving along on the JOT form, the next category is current status of degree at the institutions that you've attended. And so for those of you who are students, you are going to list your most current degree that you're working on. And for those of your undergraduates, the only one you're going to list. But we certainly have the other form possibilities for people who have gone to multiple institutions. You're able to reflect that. And then remember what we said in the beginning, you're going to need to send your transcripts from each of the institutions if they're not all reflected on the one that you send from your home institution. Okay. So just put the institution name and the dates that were attended and the hours that you've completed when you submit the application and the name of the degree that you're pursuing. Right. Now, this is always a fun box to read. Any kind of honors and recognitions that you've received while attending college. This is where the Word document is a really good safety net for you. If you will write all those out, and you'll find sometimes students have such long lists and they tried to bullet it and it wouldn't all fit in. So then they go back and they put some hyphenations and then they put commas so that it kind of scrolls on like a paragraph. But if you have a whole lot of honors and recognitions, think about the ones, like if you're trying to prioritize what might carry some weight in scholarship selection, maybe it's more important to me that you made the dean's list or the president's list every semester, even though I am glad that you were the most outstanding Frisbee player on your team that year. But just maybe, hierarchically put them in order of priority in case you can't fit them all, okay? Because we do have a lot of really diverse students. And one of our former presidents 2 years ago at our chapter, she was the president of the Frisbee club, and sometimes we had to change our meetings because they were having tournaments. So definitely have read some fun and interesting things that people choose to share there. And we're happy for you to share Greek organizations or anything that applies to your undergraduate, but again, thinking to give yourself an edge with competition among other scholarship applicants, list the most important ones first, the ones that are hardest to achieve, okay? All right, and then any kind of professional service. And, my students have already, a couple of my students yesterday, we were talking about hoping they could, come on tonight. And they were like, well, what are we going to say for service? I mean, we're officers, but we're just doing virtual meetings. Well, guess what? That's still a meeting. You're still being a leader and you're still serving the Honor Society. So even though we're not in person, we can't discount what we're doing like tonight. Those of you who are students who are on here, you're on a webinar, you are making yourself aware of all the scholarship opportunities, and there's a whole lot of Phi U members that aren't on here tonight. So it would be worthy to list tonight that you attended the webinar. So any kind of service that you've done to Phi U is important to put down, whether it's to your chapter or to the philanthropy that your chapter is doing the service project in, whatever. All right, any kind of chairmanships, any kind of offices. And then the same is true with other family and consumer science organizations. Anything like you might be in the Dietetics Association, you might be in hotel restaurant, whatever other, you might be in AAFCS, whatever you're paying dues and being an active member for, be sure and list to show that you are aware of our profession as a whole, not just your one major, okay? And then this other university and community organizations, a chance for you to sort of display your diversity and the things that you get involved with your free time. Do you work for Habitat? Are you the president of the Frisbee Club? That kind of stuff. Show some variety in your interest and activities, okay? That'd be a perfect place to put that. All right, so then we come to this professional goal statement and how goals contribute to family and consumer sciences, 500 words or less. And this is where I highly recommend that the students write it in a Word document, make sure everything's spelled correctly and as perfect as possible, because you certainly wouldn't want to lose some points because, you know, you turned in a text message rather than an actual professional goal statement. Just talk about what you hope to do when you graduate and why you're pursuing this degree. You know, somehow try to exhibit your passion for that choice that you made to be in that particular major. And again, I might refer to you, Susan, because I know you served on the committee most recently. Is there anything that you want to add to what they could, you know, highlight in their goal statement?
Well, definitely I would key in on any kind of academics and any need. You know, there's anything that you know, a special need for financial support is always good. I thought reading that in those letters from last year, and you know, if you're working and paying your own way through college and you know, anything like that. I mean, that doesn't matter. You still, even if someone's assisting you, that's important as well. But yeah, just your need and your academics and yeah.
Thank you, Susan. And it is interesting, you know, to read those. I know personally that the professional goal statement and the letters of recommendation are really where the committee kind of gets down to the selection. Like, okay, everybody's great. They're all academically capable and they're achievers and they're in Phi U, but then how do you stand out as a student? And of course, you know, you can tug on heartstrings with need and also with very specific goals on how you want to make a difference in the world with your degree or how you plan to use your degree. I mean, you can even slide a statement in there as, you know, the first person to graduate or go to college from my family. I mean, there's subtle ways that you can really get in there how that this will impact your life and your profession. So just try to word it accordingly and try to do it in 500 words or less. Okay. And
I ditto to you. And also, I just wanted to add, just it really is important that you do it on a Word document and spell check. And
right.
you know, today we are just not using capital letters when we should use capital letters, and we're not putting periods where we should put periods and punctuation, and that's going to be extremely important to me. And when I'm reviewing my part of it, and as from a college student, I would expect that to be almost perfect because there's no reason today that it almost couldn't be.
All right. So, well, I think everybody would probably agree, those of us, you know, who see students writing every day, that we're doing ourselves a disservice because we have sort of two languages, the one that we text with or tweet with, and then the one that's, you know, acceptable when it comes to professional and, you know, using periods and not using slang and all that sort of thing. And we get too comfortable sometimes, and then we have to write professionally. We're like, oh gosh, what do I do? So it wouldn't hurt, you know, for you to put another pair of eyes on it, one of your peers or one of your professors, and just say, does this make sense to you? Does this sound good? Do you have any advice for me? But if you don't procrastinate, you'll have plenty of time to get that done and get some input, you know, and make sure that you're turning something in that doesn't have any errors that we hold against you as we review scholarships. Okay, when we're splitting hairs, all that stuff matters. It really, really does.
And I'll add, Cindy, I was looking at some messages in the chat box. Brecca asked about, you know, for Greek life, or is there a preference for specific name or general name? And Martha had also asked about students attending previous several universities before doing most of their degree work at TWU for her institution, and requesting previous transcripts. And obviously I haven't served on the review committee, but as Cindy and Sally and Susan and some others have mentioned, we come to a place where sometimes we're splitting hairs. So we know if you're in Phi U, you're already very worthy, at least academically speaking, and usually leadership wise as well. So I think the more information, the better. as far as being more specific, and have your students really think about, sometimes we're really good at talking to ourselves, but making sure we provide information for review committee members who may not know what Alpha Lambda Delta is. Alpha Lambda Delta, National Honor Society for freshmen, or, things like that. So
Right.
if there's information, I always say, more information, the better.
Right. Good point. Absolutely.
And Cindy, I would say too, this is a good time to mention anytime that you can show with Phi U or any other organization that you're thinking about the organization's goals and kind of how you can relate your experience to our mission, vision, values, so our purpose statements, or even what our national theme is. This is a good opportunity, if you can fit it in those 500 words somehow, to say, this experience I have is a demonstration of this specific purpose or goal that Phi U finds so important.
Yeah.
And I was just going to add too that, just think about, like Cindy said, we know that you're in Phi U and that you've made it there because you're an outstanding student, but what is something that sets you apart from someone else? It only takes 0.5% to gain the competitive edge. And so what's that 0.5% for you? And it is very important that it's not all Phi U activities, that you're involved on your campus and you're doing volunteer work and things like that are very important when it gets down to splitting those hairs, basically.
Right. And I know last year, one of my students had written, and you might have done this before, but she came into our university with 30 college credits, due to AP and dual credit. So she hadn't done a lot of stuff on campus yet, but what a statement that is to say, hey, I'm a freshman, but I'm eligible second semester freshman year for Phi U because of all this AP, or we have something on our campus called the Gatton Academy, which is just a prestigious high school that if you're academically eligible and invited, you can attend Western for a year. And so they get, 36 hours pre-credit. So anything like that, even though it's kind of subtle, you think, well, you don't need to go back to high school. I don't need to know that, you were captain of your cheer squad or anything. But if you've been that kind of achiever and you can establish your overall excellence by stating that, then that's certainly valid to put there, that, that academics holds, the highest of regard in your opinion, and this is what you've done toward that end. So anything that can give you the edge, that's what you're looking for there.
We also see a lot of, I think just the nature of Phi U, we see a lot of information from students who participate in FCCLA.
Yes.
If they've really been engaged in FCCLA. So list it.
Yep. It's just a perfect place to toot your own horn. And if you find you can't put everything in there, again, as an academic advisor, I would love for a student, when they give me their resume or they request that I write a letter of recommendation, they say to me, Ms. Jones, would you please accentuate the fact that I did this or that or whatever it is, accomplishment that they may not feel comfortable tooting their own horn with or whatever, So I think that's one of the things that we've all been guilty of in our profession, is that we don't toot our own horns enough. But this certainly is a chance in the scholarship application to talk about your aspirations and why you think you're prepared to meet those goals. Okay.
And if you don't toot your own horn, nobody else will do it for you in this case. So it's important.
That's right. Yeah, it's up to you. It's up to the student. Yeah. So advisors, encourage them about that. Make sure they're giving you as much information as possible. Okay. So everybody good with that particular section? Anything else anybody wants to add or ask? If not, then I think we'll just scroll on down. Is everybody still seeing my share screen? Are you still seeing the job form? Okay, good. Just making sure we didn't lose anything. Now we're to the letters of reference. So this is where, the directions state this, but we put it again here. References must include a current Phi U chapter advisor or a current or previous academic advisor and a current or previous professor. So these recommendations, requests need to be thought out really specifically and hopefully to your advantage to choose someone that will write a good letter. I had one mentor in my life. I mean, she used like 10 font and a 1/8 of an inch margin so that she could write the longest 1-page letter possible. That was just so important to her, to get as much packed in there as possible. And I never really quite was able to master how she did that with my own. But, letters of recommendation are something that as faculty members, we are honored to do, but we're human and there's only so many hours in the day. And when you've got to get one done and you didn't provide enough information for me and I don't have time to dig because it was due yesterday, I'm saying it will influence your application if your letters of recommendation aren't tip top. So do everything you can to help your advisors or your people that you're asking, to let those people know how to help sing your praises and provide them with that information. And like I said, you might even in the email just remind them how to do everything. So there's no question about, okay, who do I send it to? How do I save it? Do I need to use letterhead? Blah, blah, blah. All that will be right there at their fingertips if you provide them with that. And that will make the process go smoother. And they're not to give the letters to you in hard copy and ask you to send them in. They're going to be submitted electronically by email to the National Phi U org. And so we need to make sure we're getting that word out. This may be a tough year. Melissa may get some of both, but hopefully everybody will read the directions specifically and understand that they're to email them directly to the national office, not to the student who then forwards it to the national office. I don't know, what are we going to do if we do get that, Melissa? Have we given that any thought?
I think we'll have to take a hard look at the rubric to see how we would score that. But just to kind of explain to those who might be new to the process, we had taken hard copies previously and they had to be in a sealed envelope with the recommender's signature across the seal and mailed with the package in a hard copy. So we're trying to be more flexible and also just to work in a more virtual format. So it really helps us certify that it's a legitimate letter if it comes straight from the person who is sending the letter.
Right.
So again, I think the foundation board is going to take a look at that rubric and look at how the changes will impact that. But I would expect we would look at deducting points, if we even qualify them.
Right. And then if you're right, if they don't have, if they don't have 3 and there's points deducted for that. And so we'll just have to really look at that. But this is pretty straightforward about how you fill it out on the form, just name, title, and then that particular person's correct email address. And then, Melissa will have direct contact with that person. If for some reason they sent a file that couldn't be opened, I think it'd be great for this scholarship selection committee to be able to reach out to them. Because what if they sent something on February 14th? Because I said life's sweeter if you do things by Valentine's Day, but yet there's no form there, but then I am not reviewing it until March 5th. So if I could see that the email was sent and verify dates and all that, how they leave the timestamps, then it'll certainly make it more official. Because sometimes, just sometimes attachments don't open, and we're going to have to be prepared for that and take them seriously, but take them at their word when they say, well, I thought I submitted it on February 14th. I can't help it. You didn't open it till March 5th, whatever. So just think about that. All right. Okay, now comes the fun part. Here are the lists, the scholarship listing for all the scholarships that we have available. And they, in the directions, are requesting that you check all for which you are applying. You're automatically considered for the following general scholarships, and they're all listed there. I won't read them out loud, but just by sending it in, you are going to be considered for those. And then some scholarships have very specific recommendations, and the 3 highest scholarships, which can be up to about $5,800, they have to have 1 additional piece. So what the form does to protect you so that you don't forget to do that additional piece, is when you select any of these that require the financial statement, which you can see written right there, financial statement required for the following, for the Howe, for the Sampson, and for the Shepester. So when you do that, and you can go down through there and click on every single one of these. I'm not going to take the minute to do that right now, but as a student, and you certainly can, advise your students to just check them all. Because I selected at least one, but in fact, all three of these that require financial statements. Because I click that, it automatically populates the form with these 2 additional grids. And I don't know why, but for some reason, a lot of people think this is just impossible to do. They're just like, oh, I don't know. And they think we're going to ask them, like savings. Do you have $513.87 or do you have around $500? I mean, actually, as the committee is looking at these, most people do round up, and there are a lot of things that can be left empty. Like, I don't have any savings. I didn't receive a grant, and other relatives are not helping me pay. My grandparents aren't helping me. So there's lots of lines that could be blank. And so to that end, I thought it might be helpful. You'll see here first is money that you have coming in. And that's where you work, what scholarships, that sort of thing, how much your parents chip in. If you're one of those students, footing the bill the entire way, that line being blank right there holds a lot of weight. When I see that a financial statement submitted and the students earning all of it and the parents aren't contributing, that again exhibits a need. And then if you have any weird other place that you're getting money, certainly, write an explanation. And then expenses, approximately how much do you have to pay for your rent or your school supplies, or, every month you have daycare that you have to pay for, whatever expenses are consistent. Like maybe you had a car accident, you had a bunch of medical expenses. Don't have to tell us about that because that's not every month. Right? So that's what we're thinking about. So Melissa, do you have one populated to show?
Well, when I got off my screen earlier, it messed me up, but I can do.
Sorry about that. But, I think the thing, like this year, it's worth all of you knowing as advisors and students that are on here, we had to leave one of the biggest scholarships on the table because we didn't have enough recipients that filled out their financial statements. And we can't give it to you if you don't fill that out. So please fill it out. Please encourage your students, just let them look at it and say, oh, it's not nearly as bad as I thought. Are you all seeing Melissa's screen now? I am not Melissa, but
you're not.
It jumped on really quick. You are, Jennifer?
Yeah.
You can see it?
Uh-huh.
Have you stopped your sharing?
Yes, I did stop. I thought I did. Let me make sure. Yes, I stopped it.
And I have a question. Okay. Is this monthly or annual expenses? Does it say that somewhere? I didn't pay that close of attention. Are they doing monthly expenses or an income?
Specified that, and it's a free form, so you could say, let's see if it'll do it. If we said $500 per month, you can actually type it. So it doesn't even specify that you have to have a dollar sign in there. We left it kind of open-ended because some people can really gauge what they have annually, and some, it's easier if they define by month. So we haven't defined that. We kind of let it a free-flowing form, but with respect to that, it also does not auto tally. So you will have to, go in and kind of add it up here, like where it says total.
Right. Because, for instance, tuitions and fees, that's like for one whole semester or one whole year. But then, let's just say they're renting some place for the spring semester, but not for the fall. So they might indicate by month. And I've seen both. So sometimes you're getting both an annual and a monthly on the same financial form. Yeah. But I don't remember too many times, and anybody else who served on selection committee, you can back me up. But I don't remember too many times when we've seen any red flags by what they're presenting. It's been pretty clear that, okay, this is a semester tuition, this is a month, or this is for the whole year, $6,000 for the whole year for rent versus we know they're not paying that per month. If they didn't, I can't really remember scrutinizing one that really had a lot of red flags. Mm-hmm. I mean, more or less, if they get it all filled out and, we're looking at, sort of total expenses versus total income and kind of seeing the discrepancy, that's how I'm sort of indicating need versus, well, they have everything covered. That's kind of the notes I'm making in the margin if I'm reviewing a scholarship. Anybody else want to add to that that's reviewed scholarships? But
yeah, and to your point, we want those kind of recurrent income and expenses. But like I just got to this medical expenses. If we've had some applicants I've looked at it and they were in a major car accident and it left them, you know, with some long-term disabilities and that becomes a financial burden to you, I think that you can introduce that here, but then perhaps that's part of your financial statement. So as you scroll on down, you'll see a written justification statement of financial need. So you can always elaborate more here. And if you've got a kind of this mixture of monthly and annual expenses, or, you know, I paid for my meal plan for the year or whatever, I think you can always elaborate here.
Right.
The biggest thing, as Cindy mentioned, is have your students fill it out. It's really not that hard. And we're not the IRS, you know, so just if it's close to what, you know, is true and accurate, but again, we're not going to count the change. But if they don't fill it out, we cannot consider them for the Howe and the Sampson and the Shepherdster scholarships. And you know, some of those are close to $6,000 and some of them have different, you know, preferences needed, but like the Howe doesn't have a lot of contingency. So even though the Sampson may be preference for nutrition and dietetics, it doesn't mean you still shouldn't apply because we do have the Howe and the Shepherdster and things like that. And just to have the justification statement for your financial need could be weighed in other situations, but this will not even populate if you do not,
If you don't check the box.
click on the scholarship application. I'm sorry, the scholarship, one of these scholarships.
Mm-hmm. And Melissa, I'm sure this happens, but I haven't tried it. So if you have selected one of the three and you go to submit and you have not completed the financial statement, will it stop you?
It will stop you.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
Just
We
making
put
sure about
additional
that.
formatting in there, so it will
Okay.
stop.
It will stop you. It'll say required fields. And I think the main thing to just get across to all of you students that are on tonight and advisors when you're working with your students is just make sure that they're filling it out. You know, even if they don't know every single thing, like Melissa said, you know, we're not the IRS. We're not going to go in there and go, what? You spend $100 a month on entertainment or, you know, $1,000 a month on clothing, you know. Oh, Melissa, there you are. Are you sharing your screen?
Oh, I stopped. Do you want me to go back?
No, that's fine. Okay. I just wasn't able to see your screen and then you popped up. So I don't know what happened. But anyway, going back to my screen then.
And we got a question from Andrea in the chat box.
Okay.
She said students need to be enrolled for the full 2021-2022 year, or are they eligible to apply if they are graduating next fall? And that's a great question, Andrea. So if you will look at the application closely, for some of those scholarships that require the financial statement, they do require that the student be enrolled for the full 2021-2022 academic year. But most of the other ones, you can be graduating, say, in December 2021. If you're graduating in May 2021, you would not be eligible for scholarships. But that is a really good question.
Yes.
And so some of those bigger ones, we actually disperse in 2 installments so that we do confirm enrollment during the spring semester, so to speak. So that's a great question.
Yes.
Kind of related to that, do you have to be full-time students or can part-time students apply?
They have to be full-time according to our current guidelines.
All right. Great questions. Anybody else? Okay, so we're just about to the end of the scholarship application, and this is where you have to, you know, finagle your signature with your mouse or with your stylus or with your fingertip, depending on what type of computer you're working on. I always think it's abysmal how it looks. You know, I certainly can demonstrate to you all that I can't, I can hardly do it with my mouse, but I do keep a stylus with me at all times. When it's a touch screen, I can do it much better. And plus, in the world of, you know, COVID, it's nice not to have to touch all the touch screens at the banks and the grocery stores and things like that. But anyway, the applicant alone has to do the signature. They don't have to hunt their advisors down to get those signatures this year. So that is a change for those of you who are advisors and have been working with this. So then, this gives you the opportunity, you know, to be reminded, make sure you're looking at all the directions. Have I done everything that I need to do? And if, you know, if you accidentally forgot something, you have a chance to look at that again. We just think it's so important to follow the directions. I mean, it's almost like a checklist for you. So that's why I said in the beginning, let's print things off and let's just do the check. Make sure you do everything that, you were asked to do. And then we've got the rules governing the undergraduate, so you guys can read that. But it's just to make sure that that you're going to have to turn in a picture and a resume, and that you are going to have to be the full-time student, which is the question we just had, and that we will have some alternates identified in the selection pool in case for some reason somebody didn't notice that they couldn't be a December graduate, for the Shepester or one of the others. So that's just some facts there that
We
make
have had that happen.
Yes, we have. We sure have. So now at this point, you've got some important notifications. Of course, all this is so important, but you've got to save it. And you can save it now as a draft and come back to it. You can hit preview your answers. And, like if I hit preview in just a moment, we scroll up, we'll see all my red marks where I didn't fill it out, But one of the things that we're suggesting that you do in case there are any electronic complications is that encourage you as a student or your students to print your application that you have in a file for your own reference. So if for some reason it is submitted and we have some sort of difficulty at the national office receiving it, then, we could allow you to fill it out again because you've printed it. And when you printed it, probably be time stamped across the bottom. Of course, it'll be time stamped on when you turned it into us, even though like, what if it was blank for some reason? So then once you hit submit, you're going to get a green check mark. All right. So it does have this little verification here that, you have to do on so many websites so that you prove you're not a robot, and you can preview your answers, and it populates right there. See where it says there are errors on the form. Please fix them before continuing. So this is what it's going to look like. Oh gosh, you didn't fill out any of your financial information. You're like, well, duh, because I don't want to apply for those 3. So then if you unclick it, look, that's gone. You don't have to fill it out if you haven't clicked one of those 3 that demand the financial information. So hopefully that will be helpful to everybody, that everything's in red. I think the form is so straightforward. It's just kind of lengthy. Now you're probably wondering, am I going to have to listen to this lady talk about the fellowships and the awards? And
well,
no,
I was gonna say, we had a question in the chat box just asking about scholarships, and they are for undergraduates. So our fellowships, which are a separate application, are going to be for graduates, and then graduating seniors who are leaving in May 2021, they can apply for the awards. So that's always good. And Cindy, do you want to show them what it does when you hit save at the bottom?
Well, I just did that. Are you guys still seeing my screen?
Sorry.
Because, because I have so many blank, it's not going to let me. Look, when I hit save, it just went to that. So I think if it's incomplete, they're not going to let you save it.
Well, it might have you create an account.
Yeah, because you can continue working on it later.
Yeah, it's just saving it for later.
Just saving it.
No,
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you have to go ahead, like if I hit save, and then you're going to create an account so that you'll be able to go back in and work on it. Yeah. So if you don't have a JotForm account, you're going to sign up with your email so that you'll be able to get to your submission. Does that make sense to everyone?
And you're certainly not required to do that. If you have all your information ready to go, you don't have to do that. And but if you would like to, that's certainly an option to kind of work on it in stages. Do you want me to show on my end, since I have a JotForm account, what that looks like?
Yes. Why don't you, Melissa? That'd be great. I'll stop my share and you show them that. And while she's pulling that up, you all, I'll just mention that the fellowships are for graduate programs. And then we have some collegiate awards as well. And so the forms are very similar. We're not going to walk through each one of those tonight, on this Zoom session, but just click on them and you can see the types of information, and certainly encourage your students to apply for both scholarships and awards. But what we've done historically is if a student applies for both and they're eligible for a great scholarship, we would award the scholarship and then give the award, we would give the scholarship. I shouldn't use that word. We'll give the scholarship to them and award somebody else the award. Does that make sense? Because we'll try to max out what we're able to give you based on your credentials and your worthiness. But if you go ahead and apply for everything, maybe you'll get something. All right, so we're looking at Melissa's screen now.
Yeah, so here is the application. I'm going to hit fill form. This is kind of the back end of things. So it's just got some random examples there. But if you go down, you will see that, for instance, honors and recognition received. There is a red asterisk there, so that means it's a required field. So when we go down, and Cindy had kind of shown examples of this.
Yeah, great.
When we hit preview answers, it will say there are errors, please fix them. And so as you scroll back up, it's going to show you exactly in red where those errors are. Let's say if you don't have a signature. And then we'll hit save because I already have a JotForm account. Your form has been saved as a draft, so you can get a shareable link, and it'll automatically send you an email. So that means you would, have to have registered to have your email. And I tested that out, and it comes straight to your inbox, or you could just take the link and copy it and paste it somewhere that's handy. And then, Cindy, you think I should maybe fill it out and hit submit so we can see what it looks like?
Yeah, that'd be great if you could.
You had us practice that one, and I just wrote stuff in there. Mine went through. I got a reply. Actually, I got 2 email replies.
Okay.
Yes.
That it was complete.
Good. Did you have to create an account?
I didn't have to create an account or anything. I just previewed my answers, but I had filled in all the boxes.
Right. I think that's what
checked a scholarship that needed the financial form, so I didn't have to do that, or I didn't do that. So, but I just filled in those boxes with Dean's Honor Roll, and I just made.
Okay. Well, and I wonder if maybe if it just goes back to the email box itself, if you've got your email in there so that it can communicate with you.
And I used my personal email instead of my work email, and it came to my personal email. Actually, I'll see if I can pull that up.
Okay, thank you.
I got 2 of them.
And so I'm going to hit preview answers here after I've fixed my errors or omissions. And so then it kind of just changes it, and it makes it look really nice and concise. So really try to resist the urge to print screen before you get to this, because it just isn't as nice and neat. But for your own sake, to keep a copy, once you hit preview answers and it allows you to do that, see how everything is just so lovely and left aligned here. So you'll have this option. So you still have not submitted. It's just kind of letting you go back over, make sure there's nothing crazy, and you can go back and change something. Print. So there's the option now to print. You've got a button. And when you hit submit, you will know that it came to me. Okay, I got to put that message in there first. By the, wait for it. Oh, is it going to do it? Well, it says submission ID. Maybe it's because I'm in the back end. It typically has a green check mark.
Yeah, the green check mark.
Mine had, when I did it, it was a green. The first one I got says, we have received a response for 2021 Phi Upsilon Omicron Scholarship Application - Miller Susan N. And then the second one I got says, we have received your response for 2021. So the first one, I guess, is the one that went to the advisor. Is that right? Oh,
Yes.
yeah, because then I put myself as the advisor. I did. I got that.
Got it.
No. Yes, it went all.
Yay. Yeah, and we hadn't really touched on that. So the advisor for scholarships, the Phi U chapter advisor, and there's some subtext there that identifies that. They will not get a copy of your complete application, but they will get notification with your name and your email and your phone number and your major area of study that says, hey, this person has submitted a Phi U scholarship application. And so if you are not really a Phi U member and you submit something, then your Phi U chapter advisor's email will get notification. So again, that's an extra precautionary step we tried to take because we still want that oversight, but we were trying to make it a little more user friendly, so to speak, in our current world. So,
Right. Okay. So I think we've gone over everything, and
I think-
certainly everything's written if you need to read it again. And of course, this is going to be posted as a recording if you want to listen to it again, heaven forbid.
I think
But-
some of the things, just to mention quickly, as
Okay.
far as the fellowships go, a few changes that we made to kind of help with barriers in the past. We changed some of the requirements from required to optional, because maybe if a student doesn't know yet what program they're going to, and they had to say, I'm accepted to this program and here's who my advisor is, they didn't have that information previously. And so that was something that we made as an optional for the form. So as we've said before, providing as much information as possible is really important. But like in the case of dietetics students who are going to a graduate program, but they don't know yet what program they're accepted to,
Right.
and they can't say, I applied to 5 different programs, but I don't know which one it's going to be. You have the option to leave that blank. So you're able to meet that March 1st deadline because we made some of those things optional. But that's described in the new guidelines. And you'll see, right there on the fellowship application.
I just thought I'd bring it up quickly. I
Yes,
know that
thank you, Melissa.
been on
Yeah.
our, but
Yes.
again, it looks very similar. But to Jennifer's point, there are some things, and really, if you just read and you don't see a red asterisk, you'll know.
Yeah, because you may not know who your academic advisor is yet, or you may not know which program. So you'll see some of those things, or it's been a while since you went to school and you're coming back and you don't know who your Phi U chapter advisor would be, or so we've tried to make changes to overcome some of those barriers for the fellowships. But as they said, a lot of the things and the processes are similar between scholarships and fellowships, and a lot of the information we're requesting is the same. But
Very similar. And if you're filling out both, or you'll find it easy to navigate because they look so much alike.
mhm.
And just to point everyone to the president's research, a lot of times we do not get applications for this specific fellowship. And so if you click on it, you'll see that it populates the research prospectus. So that's something to advertise kind of early if you know someone who could really benefit from that. We definitely would like to expend that money and award that to a worthy Phi U member.
Right.
And I'd just pipe in and say that we'd really appreciate advisors' assistance in identifying students that would be eligible for, in particular here, we're talking about the fellowships, because we don't get a lot of applications. And so as with other scholarships, I know last year we failed to be able to award all of those, and our goal in Phi U, it's obviously to support students, and the Ed Foundation exists for the sole purpose of supporting students. And so we really want to give away that money. That makes us feel so good. And those who endowed scholarship funds, fellowship funds with us, left that as a legacy for all time. So we're wanting to make sure that we have give opportunities for students. So please try to help us get the word out.
Absolutely. Good point, Lynette. I might add, I know a couple of you have, hopped on as the meeting progressed, and that's great. We're glad you're able to join us. We were asking all of you that joined us tonight to go in the chat box and put your name and your chapter name and your email. So that way, if we need to do any follow-up, or if we need a contact list from this particular Zoom meeting, we'll have that available. We are recording it, so don't forget that. And Melissa will get it posted, and, we'll shoot it out either from national office or from, the regional counselors or whomever will send it out, so that if you want to let some students look at this or parts of this, it will be available to them. I think the main thing that I have found over the years, and I'm really happy to say that, several of my students have received scholarships, and I've gone to every scholarship workshop I could go to at every conclave, just to try to get the ins and out of it. And in fact, the last conclave we had like an open session where students could chat and come by. You hear the same questions always, and being able to support them by prioritizing it at a chapter meeting, this month before they get away, or early December before they get away, or just having a Zoom session, whatever. It's so important for advisors to, keep this thing going by making sure the students know that there's a lot out there that's available. We gave away over $95,000 last year for this academic year. And we, like Lynette says, that's why we exist. We want to get it to them. We want the process to be smoother and easier. So if you think of anything that could help facilitate this, feel free to email Melissa or any of us, and Jennifer as president, or even Kyle as president-elect. I mean, they'll be happy to work on it going forward. We'll see how this year goes with all the electronic submission, and then maybe we'll have, some more changes that we want to make next year, or to streamline things. Okay, I really appreciate everybody joining us. We've had about 31 people, so that's great. Thank you for taking time out, and let's go Phi U. All right, let's get these scholarship apps in, and let's award and recognize these deserving